George Cook here from Rio. Today, here at Waters West in beautiful, rainy Port Angeles, steelhead country, mind you, we're talking about clear intermediate lake lines. So at Rio, we built a line called a Camo Lux, which is just that, it's a camo intermediate. And we've got kind of our traditional, original lake line called the Aqua Lux, which is mostly clear with a little bit of soft, opaque back end color. They're both formatted for lake fishing, and to some degree some of this beach game here in the Pacific Northwest that's found largely in Puget Sound. So the question was coiliness, tangle lines. So historically speaking, if you go back into the 1990s and you look at lines that were being built in a clear format with a monocore, those lines in the early editions from any given line company, and there were really two players out there building them, they had a tendency to be pretty coily, had a fair amount of memory, and they were problematic, meaning that if the angler didn't take just a little bit of time to stretch his lines at the beginning of his fishing day, he might incur some level of irritation. Indeed. Nowadays, these lines, based on not just the cores, but of a term called durometer, which durometer is a fancy word for the stiffness factor of the actual line, the line that you pick up in your hand. So these lines today do not have the tendency to coil or be a pain in the butt like they were 15 years ago. Now these lines are much more user-friendly and require very little, sometimes a little stretching. And stretching these lines, if you're bank lake fishing, is probably something that you ought to get in the habit of doing, because guy walks out there, strips off a bunch, he makes a cast, he throws X amount of that line, and part of it doesn't work into the cast. It kind of comes up as a coily mess. First thing to do as an angler with any of these type of lines that do that is stretch that portion of the line. Literally just stretch it. Take 30 seconds and do it, okay? Because never forget that as a fly line sits on a fly reel, even a large arbor, there is an arbor. This one's large. It's typical large arbor reel, but as that line drops down that arbor, it's in a tighter coil, and so therefore that line could be as coil free as any line ever made, still might have a propensity to have a little bit of coil in it based on the arbor. So it's never a bad idea to stretch them. Usually one time just does it and away we go. It's that simple. But to answer the question, are they better today? They're way better today. I would say that they're 85 to 90% is clean casting. Okay, the monocore, poses different challenges, but it also offers up some mega advantages, particularly ability to put a clear line together, ability to cast very far in windy conditions. These lines are wonderful for that, both lake and beach.